Exploring the distinguished social life in ancient Egypt. The social classes in ancient Egypt's day-to-day life. Based on each person's occupation and place in the community, ancient Egyptian society was split into a number of social classes that were arranged in the shape of a pyramid. The monarch or pharaoh, who resides at the top of the pyramid, was seen as the earthly embodiment of the gods, and as such, he and his royal family enjoyed immense wealth, stature, and power over everything. The educated class of priests, doctors, accountants, and scribes, who were thought to have been chosen by the god Thoth, is found at the second level. The labor force of artisans, merchants, sailors, and warriors who developed the economy and safeguarded the nation arrived in the third class. The servants, farmers, and builders who built the Great Pyramids and other monuments arrived on the upper levels. The professions and jobs were passed down from father to son over the ages and were hereditary. The family and marriage concept in ancient Egypt's daily life. In ancient Egypt, building a family was very significant and even necessary because most weddings were planned by parents, and girls were typically married at the age of 12 and boys at the age of 15. They devised a system where the males would learn their future career from their father to earn money and provide for his family, and the girls would learn from their mother how to be a wife and mother. Unmarried men were exhorted to be married as soon as possible since they were seen as incomplete and unbalanced. Although divorce was a common occurrence in ancient Egypt, it was nevertheless relatively uncommon because of the people's strong belief in the value of an intact family. The place of women in ancient Egypt's daily life. Women frequently enjoyed the same rights as men in ancient Egypt and were accorded the same respect as men. They were allowed to possess property, engage in economic transactions, and give testimony in court. Some women, like Queen Hatshepsut and Queen Cleopatra, even had the power to rule Egypt and leave a beautiful legacy as a female pharaoh. They were able to have significant success by becoming high-ranking officials like administrators, priestesses, and managers. But their culture never let them forget that their primary duty was to look for their home and children before anything else. Ancient Egyptian daily life's dwellings and shelters. To build their temples and homes, the ancient Egyptians utilized adobe, a quick and inexpensive material consisting of mud bricks that is cured in the sun. Their homes were adorned with lovely furnishings, alluring amulets, and numerous old religious items. The homes featured a flat roof that they slept on during the hot summer months, and they were separated into 2 stories, one for the reception and the other for private housing. The homes were able to maintain a cool inside temperature. All of the cooking was done outside because the homes were constructed around courtyards. The lords and other individuals of high status lived in houses that were 3 times larger than those of the other farmers. The role of the Nile River in ancient Egypt's daily life. Because it served as the nation's lifeblood, the Nile River is truly the wellspring of life in both ancient and modern Egypt. The Nile nourished the soil, supplied water, and helped the growth of all necessary wheat, barley, and papyrus, which were later converted into paper, baskets, and other crops. Additionally, the Nile served as a means of connection between Upper and Lower Egypt as well as a means of transport for people and various products. Due to the Nile's importance, it has been shown as a holy figure and a gift from the god Sobek, who is thought to have created the Nile. You can take a Nile cruise vacation to Upper Egypt with a knowledgeable tour guide, see the breathtaking beauty of the region between Luxor and Aswan, and get fascinating behind-the-scenes looks at Pharaoh's most important sites. Foods and drinks in ancient Egypt's daily life. Ancient Egypt had plenty of crops, including wheat and barley, and food was simple to get by. The most often consumed food was bread, which was typically seasoned with honey, herbs, fruits, and sesame seeds. Bread was also regarded as a high source of carbohydrates. Their major source of protein was fish. Meat was more expensive and only found in the homes of the affluent because it was so difficult to keep fresh in the arid climate of Egypt. As a result, their diet consisted primarily of vegetables and wheat. In contrast to wine, which was exclusively found on the tables of the affluent noblemen, beer was the preferred beverage and was consumed at every meal. The role of entertainment in ancient Egyptian life. Ancient Egyptians were very interested in all forms of entertainment, including hunting large animals like crocodiles and hippopotamuses, as well as different board games like senet, an early version of chess, hound, and jackal, as well as many toys made especially for kids in the shape of animals. Sports including swimming, handball, wrestling, archery, gymnastics, water jouster, a type of sea battle by tiny boats in the Nile, and many others were highly valued in ancient Egypt. They valued music and dance as art forms, and they practiced them frequently, particularly at their festivals and the lavish feasts that the nobility hosted and attended, which featured the best cuisine, beverages, dancers, and musicians. The festivals in ancient Egypt's daily life. Each festival had a distinctive nature, such as the god's birthday, and was held in conjunction with the lunar calendar, like the Feast of Hathor at Dendera, the festival of god Amun at the Karnak temple, the festival of Osiris, etc. During the history of ancient Egypt, there were many festivals that honored a certain time, such as New Year's Eve, like Wepet Renpet in July at the time of the annual flooding, or of a religious nature. There are also celebrations centered around a person's birthday, funerals, accomplishments, or a straightforward housewarming. Even though self-indulgence wasn't regarded as appropriate, the ancient Egyptians indulged in every kind of extravagance during the festivals. Ancient Egyptian clothing and fashion in daily life. Men and women both wore the same fabric in the form of linen kilts, since the clothing of the ancient Egyptians was composed of linen, a light, cool fabric woven from cotton. The majority of the women wore simple sleeveless gowns, but the servants and lower-class women were depicted wearing kilts. The women who belonged to the royal and noble classes wore fitting dresses that reached their ankles, while the men wore shirts and blouses. Before the age of 10, young children in ancient Egypt didn't wear any clothing. Everyone in ancient Egypt wore sandals to protect their feet from injury when traveling vast distances in an effort to emulate the gods, who didn't appear to require any footwear. Ancient Egyptian daily life and health. Ancient Egyptian medicine was greatly influenced by their religious culture, since they combined scientific methods like diagnosis and observation with magical practices like spells and charms. All doctors started out as scribes because they needed to learn how to read medical texts and identify the right disease, or as they called it, the right curse. They also learned a lot about surgery, setting broken bones, and treating diseases and illnesses from religious literature. The people thought of all illnesses as a type of atonement from the gods for a specific sin. By dissecting the human body to better understand how each organ functions and to obtain a deeper grasp of the human body's ailments and treatments, the ancient Egyptians were able to make very notable advances in the study of anatomy. They developed the toothbrush, breath mints, and toothpaste made of eggshells, ox hooves, and ashes because they had a great deal of dental hygiene knowledge and concern. Ancient Egyptian daily life and religion. Because there were hundreds of ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses for every area of life, their religious ideology kept their society intact. Ancient Egyptians believed that only the gods had the power to regulate science and reveal its mysteries. They lived in a polytheistic civilization where each town and village had its own deity, rituals, ceremonies, temple, and set of unique practices. They developed the mummification method as a means of preserving the body for the afterlife since they believed in life after death. In addition to various urban legends like the tale of Osiris and Isis, they also created many myths and beliefs, including the ancient Egyptian creation myth and the afterlife. The Book of the Dead, which comprised numerous hymns, formulas, protective amulets, and spells, is where most religious information about ancient Egypt originates. Ancient Egyptian daily life and technology. The first writing system, hieroglyphics, was invented by the ancient Egyptians, who were true natural-born explorers and inventors. They used it to record their daily lives, scientific discoveries, and religious beliefs. They also used it to communicate messages and tell stories. They produced a type of paper known as papyrus with black ink for writing and painting that was also available in several colors. They also made use of their extraordinary astronomical knowledge to develop the lunar calendar, which we continue to use today and is based on the cycles of the moon and the Sirius star. By using timekeeping tools like shadow and water clocks, obelisks, and sundials, they were the first people to divide the entire year into 12 months, 365 days, and 24 hours. Their faith and way of life were significantly impacted by their observations of the sun, stars, and moon. As seen by the numerous magnificent pyramids and temples found all over Egypt, they possessed a talent for geometry and architecture. When they designed their ships, they also possessed extensive knowledge of aerodynamics. By implementing the ox-drawn plow and an irrigation system, they enhanced their agricultural productivity. Crime and punishment in ancient Egypt's daily life. The civilization of the ancient Egyptians was one that upheld the law and depended on it. The vizier, the pharaoh's right-hand man and second in command, was in charge of upholding law and order and punishing offenders. Community leaders constituted the local court, also known as kenbet, which heard the cases and determined who was guilty and who was innocent. The city's judgment hall served as the venue for the court. However, it occasionally held proceedings outside on the sidewalk or in a market. Due to their alleged ties to the holy, legitimate gods, Amun priests were the ones who rendered the final judgment during the new monarchy, hence there was no room for attorneys or appeals. For small infractions, a fine was sufficient, but for serious crimes like murder, rape, assault, and tomb robbing, prison, mutilation, forced labor, and even death were the penalties. Thebes' enormous prison housed all condemned criminals, who were also forced to work as slaves in Karnak and suffered worse eternal fates. Thank you for joining us on this captivating journey through ancient Egypt's vibrant social life. From pharaohs to artisans, this civilization's intricate tapestry has left an indelible mark on history. Subscribe to our channel to continue exploring the mysteries and marvels of our shared human heritage.